A call to commitment based on Acts chapter 6 verses 1 to 7, the appointment of the seven. Today we are thinking about how we can serve God within our church. No church is perfect, and neither was the early church in Bible times. In the book of Acts, we read of how the church in Jerusalem was made up of Christians from different backgrounds. The church was led by the 12 apostles. These 12 had all been Jesus' first disciples, except for Matthias, who had replaced Judas Iscariot. In the church there were native Jewish Christians who spoke Aramaic, and also a group of Christians who spoke Greek. The church was keen to look after the poor, and especially the widows. But in Acts, we read that the Greek-speaking Christians complained that their widows were not getting a fair share of the food that was being distributed. The apostles knew that their job was to pray and tell others about Jesus, but instead they spent most of their time giving out food to the poor. They felt it was right that others would take over this task, allowing them to concentrate on praying and preaching. So the apostles put 7 respected Greek-speaking men in charge of the food distribution. The 7 men were called Stephen, Philip, Prochorus, Nicanor, Timon, Parmenas, and Nicholas. They were chosen because they were wise and full of the Holy Spirit. The apostles prayed over the men and laid their hands on them. Laying hands on someone was seen as setting a person apart for special service. And so the problem was solved. The apostles could get on with spreading the good news and building up the local church, while the 7 men had the important job of making sure that donated food was fairly distributed. Different people have different talents and skills, and so can do different tasks. And what about us here at St. Paul's? Our leaders have a responsibility to preach and teach from the Bible, and they need to concentrate on that. The rest of us should all be involved in different ways of serving within the church and community. But remember, if we agree to take on a particular job, we need to be committed to that role and make sure that we faithfully and responsibly perform our duties, helped by the Holy Spirit. So here are some questions for you. Do you think it was a wise decision to appoint the 7 to take over the distribution of food? And how could this model of sharing the workload apply to St. Paul's? We are now going to divide into small groups in breakout rooms for about 5 minutes. And we would like you to spend a few minutes discussing how we can share the work that needs doing at St. Paul's. And you might also like to think about how you can serve God as a member of our church. Here are the questions again. Do you think it was a wise decision to appoint the 7 to take over the distribution of food? And how could this model of sharing the workload apply to St. Paul's? We'll come back together again in a few minutes. See you soon.